Hey there guys, this is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and I'm back once again to talk about the latest thing, and one of my favorite things of all time, which is Dragon Ball. If you don't know what I'm talking about at this point, I'm talking about the latest movie, Dragon Ball Super Hero. Um, it's been out for a little while, in fact, or at least in North America, or internationally is probably a better word, but in fact I think... I'm recording this on the 12th. I saw it the Thursday. So I think the August 19th, 18th, 19th, something like that. I got, to see it a little early. But, fun time. But at this point, I think the movie's kind of run its course, which I think kind of works out probably well. Talk about the movie after everyone's had their chance to see it, because I feel like you're probably only looking up a review just because you love Dragon Ball just as much as I do. So, in fact, I've actually tried to hold off on watching any other reviews, even though I've seen some. I'm like, I want to know what that guy thinks. But, but you can listen to mine, because you're probably going to also listen to all the others. But, yeah. I'm going to be talking about Dragon Ball Superhero, the latest Dragon Ball Super film. Kind of a interesting film and what it is kind of trying to do with the franchise a little, at least visually, but we'll go into that as we do. So, quick thing I want to note before we start. I wanted to apologize in advance for the audio quality of this review. I'm actually recording this in my garage. And there's only one car in here, so the kind of like the buffering of the sound is being kind of altered, not to mention just this, space that probably isn't the best spot to record in. The reason why, and quite frankly, part of the reason why my other projects are taking longer, because I know I still got the Tales of Arise video to do, that I'm still working on, near the end, but still working on. The basement renovations are finished, and the room is all done and furnished and whatnot. The problem now is that the walls, I think the walls are too thin or too hollow or something, but like the room has a lot of echo, and you can hear probably a little bit of echo in this one as well, because like I said, there's only one car in this garage, and I was using both as kind of like a buffer to kind of control the echo and whatnot. But until I get the better equipment that I need to make the basement a better space to record audio in, I'm having to use the garage and kind of compromise with what I have and kind of play sort of like audio engineer, like, oh, I'm going to, only record, at night, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. Because, since I'm in front of the garage doors, that's where the noise is probably most likely going to come from. And also, the whole two cars thing. But I'm kind of, this isn't too important. I'm kind of having to sort of take a loss with this one and just going, because I want to have this at least be a little timely, the Arise thing, that'll be ready when it's ready. But, Dragon Ball, since it's a film, I want to be able to record that relatively on time. So that to keep in mind. Sorry in advance if the quality is just not really that fun to listen to. I'll try to clean it up as best as I can, but yeah, until then, that's kind of what I'm having to deal with at the moment. So, yeah, sorry. As usual, I like to kind of go through the story pretty thoroughly and kind of give my thoughts in between. So, I guess we'll just start there. So, the movie actually opens with a really pretty 2D section recapping Goku's adventures with the Red Ribbon Army. Even going into, the androids and Cell and whatnot. Which, it actually looks really nice. Like, I'll go ahead and say that the CGI, in my opinion, actually looks pretty good. I think they handled it much better than they did. Just kind of splashing in the CGI in the older movies, or previous movies rather. I think it actually looks pretty good here. Obviously because, the entire movie, or at least most of the movie, is CGI at this point. But it looks good, I think. It's obviously not great, but, like, they're kind of doing, I'm guessing, sort of the same things they did in, I think, Fighters, with sort of how they have to do, like, a little, and I think Kakarot, too, as well, where they do, like, little tricks to make it look a little better from the perspective of what you're seeing on the camera, but then like if you turn the camera, like you'll see that like, you know, the model is just kind of like mangled, you know, to make it look sort of the way it's supposed to, you know, that kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe like Toei and then we're like, you know, looking at fighters and Kakarot and all that and thinking like, oh, maybe we can kind of actually, you know, do something. I mean, obviously the movie's I think pre-rendered is probably the right word to use. I know in this day and age, you know, they could probably make it look, you know, pretty dang good. You know, obviously since it's an animated, you know, / in air quotes cartoon film, you know, it's not going to look super realistic. But yeah, to get back to the point, overall movie looks good. And here the CG, the 2D animation stuff actually looks really good. They put a filter on some of it for like the flashback stuff, so you can't really see how it would. What I'm trying to kind of get at is that like I feel like I almost kind of hope this is what maybe Super, when that starts up, looks like, or maybe what the next anime looks like. So I know there are rumors that we're getting 2 different animated projects, one possibly being a TV series and then the other one being like a web thing. I mean, we already have Super Dragon Ball Heroes going on, but, and of course this is a film. Like the animation budget is a lot larger than a TV series, so it's going to look better anyway. But yeah, so back on track with the story. They basically bring us to the present time, which I believe this movie takes place around the end of the Granola arc. Certainly after it, because, you know, as we saw in the trailer, Pan is a little older. I think she's like maybe 3 or 4. So like, truth be told, it's like around end of Z era stuff. And 18, as you see in the trailer, like she's got sort of like her more end of Z era / GT era haircut. Goten and Trunks are older. I think they both look really cool, and just all that. But they show that Commander Red, who was sort of like the main bad during the Red Ribbon arc of the original Dragon Ball, has like I don't remember what the actual specific descendant, like if it's like his great grandson or great nephew or whatever. But he has an offspring named Magenta, who is the dude always wearing the sort of like magenta-y funny name, colored blazer or jacket or whatever. And he's trying to kind of kill Goku and, you know, get revenge on him for what he did to the Red Ribbon Army and his ancestor, Commander Red. Which they show that, like, Magenta is also pretty short, like, because he's sitting behind a desk and then, like, he walks by. And I think he either has to step on a stool for something or, like, he comes off of a stool. Because like he's drinking like tea or something and talking to his colleague or his henchman named Carmine. Again, you know, keeping up with the. I like how they're actually taking advantage of the red, the color red, with the name puns, because obviously, you know, magenta. I recently learned that Carmine means red. You know, there are other red being my favorite color. I happen to know a few fancy red words like alizarin, or I think most people say alizarin, but I say alizarin just because I think it sounds better. But yeah, so Magenta, he's kind of keeping tabs on Goku and Vegeta and all of them, and he is also, you know, trying to. I don't remember if he's actually actively looking for any remnants of the Red Ribbon Army, or if he just has like just searching through all over the pools just to find anything. But basically at this point, you know, Carmine comes in and he's basically all like, you know, hey, we were able to find Dr. Giroux's great grandson. Is either great grandson or grandson, I don't remember, named Dr. Hito, who I think is in like, I think at this point he's like maybe in his teens. I think he was either in his teens taking college classes or he's a college age kid, because I remember there's like a little part where it's like you have to wait 20 years for tea, because like he wants tea. Magenta's trying to get tea, but like he spills his tea or something. He's like, "Can you get me more tea?" He's like, "You'll have to wait 30 years for tea." Which I also want to point out real quick. I mean, obviously I watched the dub, just because this movie was kind of different than the previous ones, in that this one was shown internationally in both dubbed and subtitled. I went with the dub. Now that Funimation is part of Crunchyroll, I'm wondering if maybe that has something to do with it. I don't think Super Broly was available subtitled in theaters, and I know Battle of Gods and Resurrection F were not, because those were sort of like a different. That was sort of like a different sort of era for, you know, if not Dragon Ball movies, anime movies, period. You know, I think this showing time of this film was, I think, shorter than Super Broly, because I remember Super Broly lasting a while, whereas here it seemed like, you know, of course, maybe like just time goes by so fast these days, you know, I don't know if I can really say for sure, you know, oh, that wasn't a very long time, or that was a short time, but yeah, anyway, so to get back to the point, I'm going to say that a lot, but you've been listening, probably know that by now. But the English dub, that's the one I saw, and the dub has a pretty, you know, obviously, you know, it's the modern era Dragon Ball, you know, kind of quality for the dub, so it was a good dub. But I also want to know one thing that I've been really loving about what the English dub has been doing with casting, because Magenta, he's played in the dub by Charles Martinet. Who's Charles Martinet, you might be asking? Oh, a little video game character known as Super Mario. Like, when I saw that cast list, I was like, that's so cool that they got him. And like, if you look at interviews, like he's so appreciative and so thankful for being a part of this franchise and all that. It's like, you know, that's really cool. One, to hear him be really appreciative, but also know that he's in this movie. I love how the dub has like really been, you know, they've been really getting a lot of cool, you know, actors and like bigger, you know, both in like, you know, the anime space, but also now, you know, in the video game space as well. Because, you know, Hit, for example, Matthew Mercer, who's a pretty big, you know, LA-based voice actor, and of course, you know, Critical Role now. And then, of course, Jiren, Patrick Seitz. And now, you know, with this movie as well, assuming people didn't play the Fighters DLC, you know, Broly, you know, Johnny Young Bosch, so that's another huge, huge voice actor, who also happened to be a Power Ranger. So that's just, I love how they keep getting in all these, you know, cool, you know, other actors, you know, that to me just kind of makes me feel like Dragon Ball's, you know, credibility, even though it had a ton of credibility to begin with. But I just love how they're expanding the pool. You know, we already know about the whole Zamasu James Marsters, you know, thing. So like we getting like this really, you know, cool actor to play this cool villain, and you know, who you know had some experience with Dragon Ball already. So yeah, I just think it's cool. You know, I think it's cool James Marsters doing Zamasu. I think it's cool Johnny Young Bosch doing Broly. I think it's cool Matthew Mercer for Hit, Patrick Seitz for Jiren, Charles Martinet for Magenta. You know, this might be kind of slight dream casting, but you know, speaking of, you know, the Super manga. And I've said this in YouTube comments already, but I think it'd actually be kind of cool if they got Mark Hamill to do Moro. I'm not saying that's going to happen. That's just my opinion. I think that'd be kind of cool. And if Johnny Young Bosch wasn't playing Broly, it would have been cool to see him do Granola. They'll probably get someone else to do Granola. So yeah, the cast in the English dub is, you know, great. And of course the Japanese version has some pretty cool actors as well, like, you know, Dr. Hito in the Japanese version, he's Miyu Irano, who is, you know, Sora. Not to mention Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, you know, Hiroshi Kamiya, and then Mamoru Miyano. So, damn. And in the dub, I think they're played, I'm not too familiar with either actor, but I'm pretty sure, I think one of them, is in My Hero Academia, I thought. So that's pretty cool. That, you know, they're, you know, getting actors from their own kind of pool as well, because I think that's important too with Funimation, or I guess, or you know what I mean when I say Funimation. You have to kind of bear with me, you know, like I'm probably going to keep referring to the casting and English voiceover, you know, process as Funimation for a little bit. I'm going to try not to because I know technically it's Crunchyroll now. But I do like how they're not only expanding their pool with actors outside of, like, you know, the Texas area, but also pulling in from, like, their own projects and whatnot. Actually, since they're now part of Crunchyroll, their pool will probably expand even larger. But I think it's, you know, because I think it's important that they also pull in actors from their own, you know, section, just so that, you know, I don't know. I mean, the big ones, you know, their availability may be, you know, suspect, you know. They might not always be available. But, yeah, so basically, to once again get back on track, Carmine brings to Magenta's attention that Dr. Hito, who is the, you know, descendant, I'll say, because again, I can't remember if it's grandson or great-grandson of Dr. Giraud, they found him, and he's a, like old Giraud, he's a smart-ass scientist. He actually is in prison for basically making zombies. I think that's meant to be sort of like a slight parallel to the androids, while also kind of, you know, adding in some, like, more ghoulish stuff to it. But, like, he's in prison. He recently gets out of prison. I think there's actually, like, a slight flash forward. Because, again, I'm pretty sure Carmine says something that, like, he has to wait, like, a few years for Dr. Hito to... Or is it Hito or Hedo? I don't... It's supposed to be a pun on vomit. Which, in his family tree, they do show Android 21 and 16, who we also have, like, a actual, like, real... I think it's, like, it's either Gino or Givo. Because, you know, they for 17 and 18, you know, the whole Lapis and Lazuli thing that was in the... that was in, like, those Toriyama interviews. And I believe Android 21 they call Vomi for vomit. You know, again, Dr. Giraud, the pun on Dr. Giraud's name is apparently different words for vomit, from what I understand, or that's what I've been told. I could be wrong. Because I know in the Japanese version they actually say Dr. Gero. We say Giraud because we want to. But I think it was kind of cool how they threw in, you know, that lore of Dragon Ball with 21, and then, you know, just furthering with 16, because, you know, that the whole thing with 16 being, you know, Dr. Giroud's son, we already knew. I think it's grandson. I think it's grandson now that I think about it. I think Dr. Hito is Dr. Giroud's grandson, I believe. They don't show the family members in between, you know, Giraud and 21 and 16 and then into Hito. So it's like kind of like a little mystery there, but again, I do think it's kind of cool that they're showing that. But yeah, then it then shows Dr. Hito getting out of jail. They show this in the trailer a little bit, where, like, you know, he gets out of jail, someone says something mean to him, and then, like, he walked out, like, he starts pressing, like, these little buttons on his watch, and then the whole place just explodes because he had, like, planted bombs. And then, of course, Magenta and them sort of, like, pull up, and he's like, "Hey, kid." It's like, "Why don't you come in?" And, you know, they talk about stuff, and it's kind of funny how, like, it's like, "I know what you like," and then he pulls out, like, a little thing of Oreos. I thought it was pretty funny. And basically, Magenta is sort of he's kind of playing Dr. Hito a little bit, saying, like, "Oh, there are these evil aliens named Goku and Vegeta and Piccolo and all of them, and, you know, they disguise themselves as humans so they can, like, you know, blend in our world and then, like, kill everybody, and they're evil. We need to have them defeated and stuff. They're, like, evil aliens," and of course that piques Dr. Hito's interest because he's interested in superheroes and stuff, and basically what Magenta's trying to do is recruit him to create, you know, a powerful android or something, and so that they can defeat Goku. That's sort of like their big plan. And, you know, one thing I noticed about this movie, I don't know if this is just how I see movies these days, but, like, it seemed like there was a lot of, like, explaining on, like, plans and whatnot. I actually recently was trying to listen to the novel Audition, based on that, or not based on, what the horror movie is based on. I know it's kind of the same thing too. I don't know if it's like a sort of like a storytelling kind of thing, but I found it interesting how like it seemed like they were trying to make sure we understood what the plan was. Can I repeat everything verbatim line by line? No. But yeah, I did notice there was a lot of like exposition and whatnot, which I guess is kind of good because in this situation, we're having to catch up on this group, I'll say, the Red Ribbon Army, and I do kind of like that they're touching on this little group. I don't mind them bringing back old factions with new characters. I do kind of take issue with them bringing back old villains, which will come into play a little later on. But even the whole Frieza situation is just like, I mean, it's cool, but I almost feel like he's kind of overstaying his welcome. But we'll get to that when we talk about Granola soon. And when I say soon, I mean significantly later, because that's definitely going to be after I figured out my recording situation kind of video, because that's going to be much longer than this one, I'm sure. Because I have notes for both, but that one, since it was like a longer thing, the notes are much longer, whereas this one, it's not going to be as long, and it's a little more paraphrased because I was doing it off of memory. But yeah, then we go to showing Piccolo training Pan, and they're kind of just sort of training a little bit. Then it shows them sort of like chilling, drinking water, and Piccolo's talking to her about some stuff, and he tries to teach her how to fly, but of course she doesn't know how to fly yet. Talks about Gohan and stuff, which is kind of cute. But then, she runs off because she has to go to, like, she literally like takes off like like Sonic the Hedgehog style, or I guess in this situation more Kid Goku style. They're definitely using a lot of end of Z era Pan more than GT Pan, which I know is probably going to make a lot of people happy. Quite frankly, I don't really care. Pan's cool, I guess. She did seem, now that I think about it, she did seem a little more, a little less sort of like naively carefree, happy-go-lucky like she was in those final episodes of Dragon Ball Z. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, she goes off to school, and then Piccolo goes back to his house because he apparently has a fucking house filled with stuffed animals, and he has a cell phone now because he has to make sure he keeps his Twitter and Facebook up to date. But he gets a call from Videl, and it's kind of funny because like he's sort of like sitting on like some like cliff somewhere near his house, but he can, because of his hearing, he can actually hear the cell phone. Which is kind of funny. But he picks up the cell phone. He holds it like from the top too with his two fingers, almost like he doesn't want to touch the phone. And it's Videl calling him, asking him to go pick up Pan because she can't, because she has a class to teach. I assume probably a martial arts class or something. In this section where they show Videl on the cell phone, it looks like they're doing 2D animation as well, which again looks really good. Like I actually kind of find it interesting how this is almost sort of like a reverse, sort of like Battle of Gods and whatnot, to where like, and I mean Battle of Gods as sort of like a blanket term for all the movies. That makes no sense, but you know what I mean, like the previous movies that were 2D animation that had some 3D sections. This one is doing like a primarily CGI 3D movie with some 2D animation sections, and I find that kind of funny, kind of like the Berserk anime that came out not too long ago. But we know how that went. I need to review that too, probably, maybe. I need to finish it. Anyway, so, and Piccolo's all like, why can't Gohan pick up his kid? And she says, she being Videl, says like, oh, he's working on a research thingy. He's too busy to pick it up. And of course, Piccolo's like, well, I need to check on his ass. So he goes over to their house and sees Gohan typing on his laptop. He's like, you've been slacking. You know, you're too focused on your studies and whatnot. And of course he's talking about like, but I gotta finish this report. And he's talking about like ants and stuff. And he turns friggin' Piccolo uses like his clothes beams to turn Gohan's I think it's like a tracksuit or something into like his, you know, what do you call it? Like his Piccolo cosplay outfit, like the typical gi that he would wear, you know, that most people probably associate him with. Of course, this time, since Gohan's a big boy, you know, he's got, you know, the actual like legit Piccolo cape instead of like the little pillow collar thing he had going on. But yeah, Piccolo's like, get your shit together, Gohan, and like he goes off back to his house, literally to wait for Pain to be done with school. But while he's waiting to pick her up, he gets attacked. And he sees his, you know, attacker, assailant, whatever you call it, and it's a robot-looking superhero guy who we know is Gamma 2. I think that's the Mamoru Miyano played character, which is always, you know, cool, because he's a pretty classic, at this point, classic Japanese voice actor, so I was really happy to hear him in this movie. And then later on when the Xenoverse 2 DLC comes out, because that got announced a while ago. But yeah, so Gamma's like, I'm here to kill you. And so he and Piccolo fight. The music that they played during this section is actually really good. I really like it. It was really, you know, what's the right word? Sort of like, I don't want to say uplifting, because, you know, it was just energizing and cool and stuff. And, you know, they're kind of going toe-to-toe, but Gamma 2 is able to sort of knock back Piccolo a bit with some pretty high attacks. And when he hits them, it shows like the bam, you know, the smash, you know, the comic onomatopoeia thing. It's funny because it's in the actual world, and like Piccolo's like, why am I seeing his sound effects? Which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, so Gamma 2, and of course during this whole thing, like Piccolo's trying to like, you know, get information on him. I mean, like he notices the red ribbon emblem on his outfit. He's like, that's classified information. Oh, you're able to figure out I'm an android, lol. But Gamma 2 shoots like this big blast at Piccolo, and he thinks he's actually killed Piccolo, so he like goes and flies off. But Piccolo, he ends up having survived. Then he kind of like lays low while also following him back to the new Red Ribbon base. And then Piccolo does the whole like grab someone, beats them up, and like puts their clothes on. Like he dresses up as like a little Red Ribbon soldier with like the visor and mask and everything, and like he infiltrates the base. And we saw this in the trailer as well, or in one of the trailers. And so he kind of like goes in and like he follows these other soldiers into Magenta and Dr. Hito's like sort of, I guess, office main base or whatever. And Piccolo's like standing, kind of being all like, you know, poised and stuff, listening. Like, you're looking kind of green. Some dude says like, oh, I had stomach problems, or I'm not feeling well, which he's gonna use to his advantage later on. But yeah, he's able to kind of listen in. He sees, you know, Gamma 2 and also Gamma 1, who's a bit more serious and almost sort of like the you need to control yourself, Gamma 2 kind of big brother. I kind of got Ninja Turtle vibes from him. I don't know if it's because I've been on like a Ninja Turtles kick lately. But I kind of got like Leonardo and Michelangelo vibes from them. And they even kind of sound sort of like teenager-y sort of like hero types. So that was kind of an interesting little parallel I saw. And of course, you know, obviously there's the whole superhero thing. So I know a lot of people are probably going to be comparing them to like the Marvel stuff and the DC stuff, which might be part of the reason why they crafted the story in the first place. Which I think is probably fair to say, just because, you know, the MCU is huge, you know. And I think it's fine if they want to kind of try and tap into some superhero stuff. I do kind of like it when Dragon Ball touches on some small stuff that they can. I mean, obviously, I don't think you can do a Cobra Kai, you know, approach to Dragon Ball. I guess you probably could, or at least a '90s version of Cobra Kai, given the aesthetic, but but we'll see. But yeah, so there Piccolo learns that Dr. Hito created Gamma 2 and Gamma 1, and they're trying to defeat Goku and Vegeta and all of them. And he also gets word of another creature named Cell Max. I'll let that sink in for a moment. He's like, he's not ready yet. Well, he needs to get ready soon. And of course, people are like, oh, holy shit. He doesn't literally say holy shit. I don't remember there being too much cussing, even though this is modern Dragon Ball to where they do cuss. There was at least a little bit. But, of course, Piccolo probably wouldn't cuss that much. He's more of a necessity cusser. Like, he'll only cuss when he kind of has to, and it's more like just like, it's not that he likes to cuss, but like, he'll swear when you swear, like damn and stuff. I don't know, like see you in hell and all that shit. But so Piccolo, he runs off. I think this might be the point where he's like, I got stomach troubles. And he calls Bulma and be like, hey, Bulma, some serious shit is going down. Can you contact Whis and have him bring back Goku and Vegeta? Or he maybe asks where Goku and Vegeta are, and it's like, oh, they're training with Whis. Like, well, can you have him bring? And she tries to call them, but they're showing that Goku, Vegeta, and Broly are kind of doing their thing. And Chemo, I think his name is, or no, Limo, Limo, and Chilai are with them as well, kind of doing chores, whereas Goku and Vegeta and Broly are training. Broly doesn't have too many spoken lines, but you do get to hear him talking. I know Johnny Young Bosch is still kind of new to the character, and I think he's doing a good job so far, especially with the super version of Broly, who's a little different than the other one. But he's like powering up, and like Goku's like, oh, you need to chill out, you don't need to get that. Oh, sorry. And then they show Vegeta, who's just kind of sitting there meditating with his arms and legs crossed, sitting on a thing. And Goku walks up to him with his little sassy arms being on his hips and be like, Vegeta, we need to train. Stop goofing off or whatever. And Vegeta's like, I need to focus on my peace and my meditation and stuff. Which, this is a little out of character for both of them. Again, this movie's supposed to take place after the Granola arc, so I don't know. We don't know how far, or at least I don't know how far it's supposed to take after the Granola arc. So maybe this movie is taking into account some context between these two characters that we don't know yet, because obviously there is going to be another arc after the Granola arc that just wrapped. I'm actually kind of glad the movie came out when it did in North America, because around that it was like movie. And then also, like, that same week, we got the final Granola arc chapter, which was cool. So, double Dragon Ball right there. But I felt like this little scene here was kind of out of character for them. They kind of shape back up pretty quickly because Whis, I think it is, or either Whis or Beerus wants them to spar. And so they have a little sparring match, and it shows them kind of duking it out and stuff. Where it seems like kind of like they're, at least in fighting, they're kind of coming back to how they are. And Chilai and Limo, they go to get ice cream because Beerus wants some ice cream. And Whis wants ice cream. They get a bunch. And Limo is basically, I think, sort of like the low-key chef of the group. I think right before they fight, there's like a dinner scene or something. I'm a little fuzzy on this section because it seemed like, Goku and Vegeta are not really in this movie. Besides this stuff on Beerus' planet training. This is very much the Piccolo and Gohan movie, as people have already talked about and noticed. And if you've seen the leaks, you kind of figured that out as well. Which we'll get to that a little later on. But, yeah, so to summarize briefly, basically, and it's kind of funny too, Beerus and Whis and all of them, besides Goku and Vegeta, who are fighting each other at this current point, are eating ice cream, and like they're eating a bunch, and like they toss like the buckets to the side, and one of them happens to go over Whis' staff, so they don't actually see the little flashing thing going off. And so Bulma's all like, I can't get to them, and Piccolo's like, oh shit, I gotta figure this shit out on my own. And so he's trying to plan this stuff. So like he kind of goes off, and he goes to Dende, asking about the ability that Guru had to unlock someone's hidden potential. I guess it's sort of because he sort of realizes that he needs to kind of figure this out himself and handle this himself. And he also gets some sensu beans from Korin and all that. He's asking Dende to do that about the unlock potential thing. And Dende says he can't because he's too young, even though he's like the same sort of breed of Namekian. Because like there's the warrior type and the quote-unquote dragon type that do like the Dragon Ball stuff. But then Dende's like, well, maybe we can ask Shenron to do it. If he's upgraded, so like he upgrades Shenron. And then Piccolo calls Bulma up again, who happens to have had all the Dragon Balls conveniently. And he goes over to Council Corporation to make the wish. And of course there's, the 3 wishes and stuff. And, he makes the wish to get stronger. Do the unlock potential thing. Which Shenron does. And it makes him turn into like this like almost ultimate Piccolo, if you will, sort of look to where like he glows a bit more and he gets kind of more of a chin. We're not talking about that other form just yet, though I will go ahead and say that Piccolo does get a little extra. And he's like, I don't care about the other wishes. And Bulma uses the dragon to wish for a bigger butt. But then there's a little moment like right after Shenron leaves. Where they're all like, wait, you could have used, Shenron to have him bring Goku and Vegeta. It's like, why didn't you think of that? Why didn't you think of that? It's like, oh. I don't remember what the third wish was. It was some, or maybe I missed it. Maybe that was what the something extra was. I'll have to rewatch the movie to get to sort of, get all the extra details. Hopefully it'll come out on Blu-ray soon. I imagine it's probably going to be on Crunchyroll as well. I know they're working through getting the rest of what they can of Funimation's old catalogs. I think they said most and not all of the stuff was going to be on there. But I know Dragon Ball Z, and GT are on there. We need to get Kai on there, and obviously Super's on there. So. But, yeah, it's pretty cool that Piccolo got like this upgrade. I do like that Piccolo is getting some chance to shine, because I feel like he kind of got gimped during Super with this fight with Frost, and thankfully with the Moro arc he got a little bit more with his fights against I think it's Sanbo or some other goon that Moro had, but then also 7-3. So yeah, that was a fun time. Here I'll say that while I do like that Piccolo got a boost, I don't know if I really like that it was through the Dragon Balls. I kind of would have preferred it if like he got some sort of like power boost from like some ability that someone had, or that maybe Shenron's all like, I can do that, free of charge or something, like, or like I have this other thing that I can do. Since you're a Namekian, I can kind of give you like some, I don't know, like something else. The canicity, if that's what, like, it's a little unclear on where in the canon this fits into. I'm kind of getting the impression that this movie isn't canon, which I think might be for the best. At the same time, I do kind of like what this movie gives for Piccolo and Gohan. Again, we'll get into Gohan later on. But, yeah, so Piccolo then goes back to the base. And, the Red Ribbon base, that is, and the bad guys have decided that they are going to kidnap Gohan's daughter, Pan, that we already saw, to try to entice Gohan to come in so that they can defeat him, because Gohan's their next target. And then Piccolo's like, oh, I know where, he volunteers, in costume and whatnot, to be like, I know where Pan lives. I know where Gohan lives. I can get the daughter. Like, how do you know? Like, I go by there all the time or something like that. Sorry, I had stomach troubles. I had to take a big shit. There's even like a little moment where like, hey, you're kind of green, you know, which is ironic already. You know, like you don't have enough experience, you can't go. Then of course Vegeta's like, well, if he wants to go, he can go. And they go and they fly over in like this little helicopter thing to Pan's school. And it's kind of funny. Piccolo thinks to himself, you know, this might actually give Gohan the boost he needs. So it's kind of funny how Piccolo's legitimately causing the danger here. When, I mean, I know he's a strategist, so he's probably trying to do this, you know, tactfully. But, yeah, they go to her school, and they pick her up, kind of more or less. Either she knocks out the guy or Piccolo knocks out the guy that he's with. And he's like, okay, no, here's what you're going to do, Pan. You know, you're safe, but I'm going to pretend to kidnap you. And I want you to act like you're kidnapped. And so he's like, okay. And of course she's in her, like, they gave her like this little school uniform with like a shirt and sweater. I think it's kind of funny that the teacher who's dropping her off is also in a sort of like a shirt and sweater, more of a cardigan thing. I found that kind of strange. And I also found it kind of funny how like Piccolo calls her by like, it's like, thanks for dropping her off, Karen. I'm like, it's kind of, I was told that that's not in the Japanese version, but I think it's kind of funny thinking about how many times Piccolo has, you know, come down to pick up Pan, that he actually knows her teacher's name. But apparently the teacher was actually designed by Toriyama too, which I find interesting. But yeah, so Pan gets kidnapped and she gets cuffed. They use, I think it's some other guy's cell phone, like to make a little ransom video where like, okay, actually he's like, Red Piccolo kind of tells her to act scared. He's like, please save me, Daddy. And of course they go there. And Piccolo's still in this costume. I say costume, but it's like in the red ribbon soldier outfit. And Gohan can't recognize him. I think they might maybe be doing that just to kind of go along with the whole, Gohan's rusty thing that they're doing for the millionth time kind of thing. Which we'll get into that later on. But they go there. They show him the video. He gets mad. He goes super saiyan. He's like, what have you done to my daughter? Like, we're going to take you to her. Like, okay, fine. So they go. And they go to the base. And Gohan is ready to throw down. And it's Gamma 1. And they're getting ready to throw down. And Gohan's all like, you know, what's your problem? And then Gamma 1's like, he's trying to defend justice and stop the evil aliens from taking over. And so they start fighting and stuff, and it's kind of equal for a little bit, but Gohan's kind of struggling a bit. He then goes Super Saiyan, and he does a little better, but he's still kind of struggling a little bit. So Piccolo, he gets the idea to, hey, I'm going to pretend like, act like I'm hurting you. And like he basically holds her up. And he's like, Daddy, yeah, no, you're hurting me. He's like, Pan! And he goes into his ultimate form, which also kind of makes him a bit more articulate in his speech. Or, of course, that might just be Gohanism. Although I've kind of made it pretty clear that I'm not a Gohan fan, I do like adult Gohan just on the grounds of, like, I have sort of, like, this Goku and Piccolo vibe coming from him. And I think that's cool, you know. I do think Gohan is kind of cool. But he's, like, you know, he starts winning more, and he's starting to kind of get through to Gamma 1 on the grounds that they've been, like, kind of led astray and stuff. And you can kind of see... because I think Gamma 2, he gets ready to intervene. Of course, Piccolo's like, no, I'm going to come at 2. And I was like, it was you all along. You were the traitor and stuff. And it's either with Gamma 1 or Gamma 2 where there's like a scene where like, I think it's Piccolo. I think it's Gamma 2. He's like, you're lying, when like listening to Piccolo being all like, you guys are not fighting for justice. You've been led astray. And like he kind of looks away for a brief second. And like looks back at Piccolo, and like it kind of just shows that he's sort of like, well, wait a minute, maybe these guys are right. Maybe he's right. That's a Kingdom Hearts sort of reference, technically Smosh, but yes. And now he starts fighting, and Piccolo's in his sort of like pseudo ultimate Piccolo form. We can maybe call that Yellow Piccolo. That's going to come into play later. But yeah, he gets knocked down at some point by Gamma 2. And that's where we hear the whole something extra line from Shenron. And then Piccolo, he powers up and he goes into this big beef form where like he gets a little smaller. His little antennas go up like he's going Super Saiyan. His jaw gets even bigger to where he looks like freaking Lord Slug. Which I got that from Troy. So, but he's also orange, and he's got like a symbol on the back of his gi for some reason. And I'm sure those of you have maybe seen the meme video of like standing here, I realize, with like friggin' Gamma 2 like constantly punching at Piccolo's like seemingly above his crotch, like where his belt is. And it's like not doing anything to Piccolo, and then Piccolo does like this big smash punch to him. And like just knocks him out pretty heavily. And of course Gohan is sort of, I think they show him having Gamma 1 in a chokehold or something. But basically Gohan and Piccolo are winning. They're saving the day. Magenta, he gets freaked out. And so he's like, oh, I gotta go activate Cell Max even though he's not ready. And Dr. Hato starts to kind of recognize, well, wait a minute. This Gohan and Piccolo guy, these two men, because they're not the same person. It's like fucking 7 a.m. Because, I'm a night owl and I tend to stay up. My mouth starts working or stops working after a while. I don't know. But anyway, Dr. Hito is like, wait a minute, Gohan and Piccolo, these guys are not really bad guys. Maybe you're the bad guy, Magenta. And so he runs off. And Pam breaks out of her cuffs and she, freaking punches Carmine in the balls and knocks him out. Because I think he's holding... I forget I think he's holding back Dr. Hito. Or not holding back, but he's in the way. That's what I recall. And, Android 18 and Krillin and Goten and Trunks also show up. So the whole gang is here. Krillin looks more or less the same. He's basically in like his police outfit. And Goten, I think, actually looks really cool. I kind of like how they gave him sort of like the alternative like Team Gohan hair. And of course he's wearing like, his like sort of kung fu-esque outfit. I think that's cool. I like that they're starting to make him look a little different. And Trunks looks cool as well. Of course, they're giving him the Dragon Ball Super blue hair, which is fair. And of course, they talked about Piccolo having the yellow sort of like muscly parts to kind of match the manga. So I guess they're kind of trying to do the same thing with Trunks. Probably should have given Bulma the purple hair then. Because she actually originally had purple hair. But nope, blue hair. So I don't know, maybe they're trying to be consistent. Even though it's pretty clear that Trunks takes after Dr. Briefs. Anyway, so they all start to come in and they're helping with stuff. I think Bulma probably called and let them know what was going on because Piccolo's saying like, "Oh, shit's gonna get really bad," So have to get the whole crew except apparently Yamcha and Tien, but that's okay. It is what it is. So then it shows Magenta going further into like the lab and like he's trying to like activate Cell Max, but Dr. Hito's like, "No, stop it." He's like, I made changes to my body and stuff. And so he's looking all like swole and shit. It's kind of funny because like they show him like he's like taking off. They don't actually show this, but like they show like Dr. Hito kind of looking at him. And you can hear like the sounds of fabric. So like you can tell he's trying to take off his like top and whatnot. And like he has like the hanger and whatnot. And like he saw metallic and stuff. And he starts shooting friggin', or he shoots Dr. Hito before a few times, trying to kill him. But of course, that doesn't work because Dr. Hito had before, while talking on the in the beginning of the movie, that he had made modifications to his body to make his skin really, durable. And then it's like, well, I did the same thing, takes off his jacket and like reveals his swole ass body. But then of course Dr. Hito's like, okay, yeah, that's cool and all, but like I have this little bee that I'm gonna like shoot you in the neck and it's gonna make you turn to like this weird like zombie thing and kill you. But while that happens, he's able to kind of like reach over and like press like the activate button, and that's the whole "oh holy crap" scene that you probably saw in the trailer, because that's also in the movie. This movie did pretty good about having scenes from the movie in the trailers, because I know some movies like to have like just scenes that they just film specifically for the trailer, which I think is kind of fun as well in a way. Keeps your expectations, keep you on your toes and all that. But so while everyone's kind of like chilling outside, being like, "Oh, sorry, it's all like, you were led astray, it's okay," and shiz, Cell Max then comes in, and everyone's trying to fight him and stuff. And then Dr. Hito's like, "You have to attack his nucleus and destroy it. That's how you kill him." So they're all trying to work together. Even Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, they're all trying to fight. And they're all like blasting him and stuff. Then Piccolo does like a supercharged special beam cannon on his head. Doesn't do anything. And they're struggling a bit. And then Gamma 2's all like, "Hey, I have an idea. I'm going to go up. I'm going to power up really hard and just charge all of my energy." Because apparently they didn't have... I think what it is, like, they have unlimited energy, but they only have like so much power to work with, I guess. I don't really know. Which I guess is fair. I don't know. I thought the androids were supposed to have unlimited energy. But like, yeah, he powers up, goes up really high and powers up, and like just comes charging down, be like, "Ah!" I did kind of get a little spoiled on this. Of course, I got kind of spoiled on Cell Max and Orange Piccolo and Gohan. But in this case, it was through the soundtrack listing, because I think one of the songs is called Gamma 2's Sacrifice. I'm like, okay, so Gamma 2's going to do something. And my first thought was that, like, I don't know, he's going to like sacrifice himself to like save the bad guys and whatever, and then there'd be like some moment about that. But no, he's actually working with the good guys. And so he's able to come down, he smashes on Cell Max's head, and he's able to kind of crack the head a little bit, but not really do enough damage to like knock him down completely, but enough to sort of like get him a little damaged. And Krillin's all like, "Hey Piccolo, you remember you could go big back in the old days?" "Oh yeah, I could." And they show like a little scene of Piccolo turning large, and so he does that, and they're fighting and stuff. And then he gets an idea like, "Okay, Gohan, I'm gonna hold him off and shit. You have to power up and as hard as you can, get really powered up and stuff." While I'm holding him back, like, "Okay, Piccolo." And so they're doing that. And Goten and Trunks try to fuse to make Gotenks, but they end up messing up and getting fat Gotenks, which is kind of a shame, because Gotenks is cool. So I want to see like adult Gotenks. They probably don't want to do too much, I guess. But it was also kind of cool to hear, Eric Vale, I think it's Robert McCollum, doing adult/teen Goten or whatever. So it's kind of cool hearing more adult sounding Gotenks. Just because, I feel like with Gotenks in general, I generally, associate him with sort of, Kid Goten and Kid Trunks. But, so, and of course it doesn't really, they're only able to do so much. But Piccolo's trying to kind of hold off against Cell Max, but at this point he's getting his butt kicked. And it looks like he's getting banged up, and Gohan's starting to get pretty upset, and everyone's like, and Krillin, I think it's even Krillin's all like, "Come on, Gohan, free up!" Or like, "Come on, Gohan." And, Piccolo's he's getting pretty damaged. Like, it actually looks like he's dead. Like, there's even the scene where, like, he holds up Piccolo's, like, limp body. He's like, "Rrr!" That makes Gohan snap. And then he turns into what I believe is called Beast Gohan, where he gets his Super Saiyan 2, like, full hair as an adult, so it's even bigger. And he gets red eyes and white hair. And he gets all glowing and stuff, and his voice changes. This was also kind of cool hearing in the dub, because, Kyle Hebert, he got his start with Gohan in Dragon Ball Z, but he's one of the more prolific voice actors, I think. So, he's done a lot of stuff. He's done a fair amount of lower voices as well, so it's kind of cool to sort of hear him do like a more scratchier, lower voice as Gohan. He doesn't really say much because like Cell Max like tries to punch him in the chest and like doesn't do anything. He's like, "Is that all?" But basically, Beast Gohan beats him up and is gonna charge a big attack to like take care of his little nucleus, and Piccolo ends up still being alive. He's like, "I'm gonna hold him," and does like little stretchy arms to hold him. It's all like, "No, no," or Cell Max, I should say. And Gohan shoots out a beefy as F special beam cannon through Cell Max's nucleus and kills him that way. And the fight is won. And everyone kind of Gohan and Piccolo go back to their regular forms. Piccolo's out of his orange Piccolo form, but that's what he's like, "I think I'm going to call it Orange Piccolo." I was like, "Oh, okay." And Beast, he doesn't actually call himself Beast Gohan. That's just what they've been calling him in, I think, like Dragon Ball Legends and like the promotional material and all that. As far as I know, there aren't any figures of either version, though. So far, it's just been Ultimate Gohan, Gamma 1, Gamma 2, Piccolo, and then Goku and Vegeta for the figures. But they all look alright. And I know for the Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, for the SH Figure Arts figures specifically, they come with extra parts for the Ultimate Gohan. So if you like sort of the way Gohan looks, which I actually kind of do, I like when they give Gohan his not like a different kind of hairstyle for his base form and not just give him like the spiked up thing for his that he has for his ultimate form, because I feel like that makes his ultimate form stand out more. I actually kind of like the way his hair looked in this movie. I liked how it looked in Resurrection F as well, to where it was just like short. But the way it looked here was also pretty good. And Pan's like, "Daddy," and like they cuddle and stuff, and Goten and Trunks unfuse. Everyone's okay except for Gamma 2, who disintegrates because he used up all of his power, and Dr. Hito and Gamma 1 are kind of sad. Bulma ends up showing up as well just to kind of check on them, I guess. And of course Piccolo's like, "What was that move you were doing, Gohan?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I was kind of practicing your special beam cannon in secret," which is kind of nice. And that also kind of goes along with sort of what I feel like Beast Gohan was trying to do, and show that Gohan had in fact been training in secret or something. That being said, I do kind of feel like that Gohan doesn't necessarily deserve Beast Gohan in a way. I think he does, just because I feel like being a main member of the cast, he should have sort of like a Ultra Instinct, esque form to kind of be like, this is my, big boy form. This is my Super Saiyan God even. And I am glad that, someone other than Goku and Vegeta got to kind of win the day this time. But I feel like, given how they set up, the Gohan's character arc in this film, I feel like, he doesn't necessarily deserve Beast Gohan. I mean, I think kind of more of the implication that he's just kind of rusty, not that he's gotten weaker, that a lot of people seem to say. It's more that like he's just rusty, and also like he's a younger person. He doesn't really fight that much, so his experience, he has experience, especially with fighting on Namek. The androids and Majin Buu and all these other characters that he's fought. Plus, if this is past Granola, then obviously he has experience fighting 7-3 and all that. But I just feel like I would have maybe rather them show a little bit more that he had been kind of training in secret. They do kind of show it a little bit to where like Piccolo like throws an attack and Gohan sort of blocks it or something. I think maybe that was sort of them trying to be all like, hey, this is how they see it. Like it's less that he's not focusing on his training and more that he's focusing on just other stuff. Not that he's not training. But and also just the form itself, I like the way it looks. I think I would maybe give it a different hair color, because then I feel like, well, now it's just basically like another Ultra Instinct. I know at this point with Goku and Ultra Instinct, the general design of it's a little different, kinda. But that's a different subject. But yeah, overall, and that as far as Beast Gohan's concerned, while I do think maybe he doesn't necessarily deserve it. I am glad he has it. And Pan, the movie kind of ends with Pan learning how to fly, and they show Goten and Trunks doing fusion again, but of course, and they do it perfectly, and we don't get to see big boy Gotenks. And Bulma also ends up recruiting Dr. Hito as a scientist in Gamma 1 as a security guard, so that's nice. Getting extra character. I'm curious to kind of see how they handle the next movie, because I imagine they'll probably be in it. It'd be also kind of cool if we see them in the next arc as well. In the manga, we'll see. But yeah. And of course the movie ends with a post-credit scene of after Goku and Vegeta have been fighting for hours on end and they're worn out. And Vegeta just kind of knocks Goku, tries to do like a little weak ass punch, and he ends up knocking Goku over, like, yes, I finally won. He like falls over too, and they're both like worn out. He's like, in your face, and Goku's like, you got me. So we finally have that conclusion to the fight. And then finally, Whis is like, he notices like, oh shit, my phone's been ringing, or my stats been ringing. He's like, is everything okay? But I was like, oh, now we got it covered. There was a problem, but it's all good now. And of course, the final line of the movie is like, from Whis, like, what on earth did I miss? Yeah, it's kind of funny. But yeah, overall, I like the movie. I thought it was pretty good. Pretty good. Obviously it's a Dragon Ball, so I'm gonna like it anyway, so no surprise there. But I like the humor. I didn't really comment too much on it, but there was a little more. It was a little more silly, akin to more old school Dragon Ball, and of course, the CGI. Every time they showed a trailer, I kept getting more and more excited. I was part of the, like, a lot of people, like, when we heard that it was going to be a CGI movie, like, I don't know. But even then, like, it didn't look that bad. Like, the modeling of the characters looked good, and I feel like that's sort of like the key to making CG stuff look good, is you have to model it well. Because I feel like it's harder to do it in, like, an actual, like, animated style than it is in when you're just making a movie and trying to make something look realistic. I feel like it's kind of a fun challenge to sort of try to make something not look realistic, but make it look good. If you know what I mean. And of course, the music I thought was great. It's not Sumitomo; it's someone else doing the music, and it does have sort of like that more like big epic movie score. But like the music that they played during the Gamma 2 and Piccolo fight, the first one. And then I think there was a cool fight that played when Goku and Vegeta fought. Obviously, I'd have to listen back to really see. That was good. And the fact that Piccolo low-key orchestrated sort of some of this by not just like trying to end the conflict. Of course, I don't know. Maybe he was thinking. Maybe that was just sort of like a thought that he had to kind of help reconcile with the fact that he's going to basically kidnap his best friend's daughter. But it was kind of funny, and it was kind of cool seeing Ultimate Gohan beat up Gamma 1. Because again, even though I don't particularly like Gohan, I do want him to like get some attention and love, and he did here. I'm glad that he got some attention. I kind of wish he would go back to his Majin Buu, Broly's Second Coming, purple gi, to where like it's similar to the Piccolo gi, but it's more like just like a regular sort of like gi that he probably either made himself or Chi-Chi made for him. Because I feel like it kind of looks a little more interesting. But that's just me. Of course, I know the Namekian gi is like the classic Gohan look, and that's fine. But yeah, really the only criticisms I have of the movie were Goku and Vegeta being kind of out of character for like their beginning dialogues up until they fought, and then after they fought. And that so I don't know. Again, maybe there's some context that I'm missing, or that we're missing, or maybe I'm just not really good at reading characters in the manga. I don't know, because there have been some times in the Super manga where I felt like Goku seemed a little different. Of course, I feel like I don't know if it's because of Super or not, but when I was rewatching Dragon Ball Z Kai, the final chapters, in dub, I don't know, Goku almost seemed a little different to me, even though that's Toriyama. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, Toriyama's Toriyama, so, take that how you will, but at the same time. So I don't know. I think maybe just like our perspective on Goku is maybe shifting a little bit, given what they're trying to do with him. But yeah, then the only other real thing I can think of is just the Beast Gohan situation. I feel like the way the movie set it up, I don't know if he necessarily deserved it, but they kind of rectified it by making it seem like, oh, I've actually been training in secret or something. Even though the movie really just like, well, I was just basically doing the special beam cannon in secret, but I don't know. That's just kind of how I take the situation. I think it's cool that he has it, but I feel like how the movie set it up, he almost doesn't really deserve it. Does he deserve it on just period? Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be really cool to see him in like the games and stuff. And I think it's really cool that he did a special beam cannon as well, because I feel like, Gohan, being kind of a product of both Goku and Piccolo, I think it's really cool that he has a special beam cannon. Kind of like how in Dragon Ball Super, Trunks, he learned Final Flash and the Gallic Gun after training with Vegeta for a little bit. I think, and then of course, he learned Masenko from Gohan back in Dragon Ball Z. So, not to mention his burning attack move and just all that stuff. So I think that's pretty. I kind of like that when they have characters who train under other characters or train with other characters. They gain their moves and add to their repertoire. And, just kind of shows, Gohan's love for Piccolo, that he's using that move. Which, of course, the Masenko he learned from Piccolo, I'm pretty sure. Unless he made it himself, which I don't know. I'd have to look into that. But, yeah. It's cool. It was definitely really cool. And again, like, just sort of like the flip-flop of Gohan's arc, and also just the general design of it I'd maybe kind of work on. But overall, I thought it was cool, I think it'll look even cooler when we see it in other forms. And Orange Piccolo, I think, is also cool. I don't know if I really like how he earned it, how he got it, but, at the same time, it's like, it's not too bad. And, of course, again, like, whether or not this movie is canon is kind of awkward. I'm almost wondering if maybe this movie is supposed to kind of expand on like a new Dragon Ball canon, kind of like how we had like Icarus and the movies and some other stuff. Maybe this new line of Dragon Ball Super movies is gonna be starting a whole new canon. Maybe Broly's not even actually canon to the story, even though he was mentioned in the manga. So we'll have to kind of see how things go when the next manga arc of Super starts. But overall, good movie. Good movie. I'd probably give it maybe like a 7.9 or an 8 out of 10. I thought it was good, Or maybe an 8.5 out of 10. Possibly a 9. Maybe even a 10 out of 10. No, it's anywhere from like a 7 to 9 out of 10. Or a 7.5 out of 10. Or a 7.5 to 9 out of 10. It kind of depends. But, yeah. Good movie. So, yeah. I guess that pretty much wraps that up. I'm looking forward to what they do next with, whatever future movie they do next. Because it's pretty clear they're going to be doing more movies. And obviously there are rumors that we're getting 2 animated projects, like I said before. One being a web series and the other one being on TV. What that means, I don't know. And then also, the games and stuff like, Bardock DLC rumor for Kakarot and all that stuff. And of course, Dragon Ball Z The Breakers, or Dragon Ball The Breakers, is coming out. And of course, we're all waiting for Xenoverse 3 whenever that comes out. And Granola just wrapped up, so at some point I'm going to review that. I'd like to have the Tales of Arise review finished before I do the Granola review, because that's also sort of a record in the basement era recording. Of course, in that one, I kind of started doing that one before these renovations started. So I'm having to kind of figure out how that was going to work with the audio, because if I have to record most of it in the garage, I want it to sound like I recorded a fair amount of it in the garage. So I'm gonna have to maybe do some little audio tricks here and there to make it sound like I recorded it all in one spot. But I don't know why I'm telling you all that. But then again, I'm a very loose channel. I like to just kind of do what I want to do. But I will say that the granola review, I would like to be basement recorded, so hopefully I'm gonna have to kind of trial and error the equipment. But anyway, that's a different subject for a different time. Overall, good movie. CGI was good, humor was good. I also like the 2D animation. The music was good. There wasn't really a vocal theme for this one, which is strange. But voice acting was good. Both the English and the Japanese cast, had some pretty nice players. Piccolo was funny with his cell phone stuff, and also just the idea that he's basically perpetuating this problem in some way. And also, it's cool that he and Gohan and basically the other characters besides Goku and Vegeta were getting some chance to shine. I actually would like to see more of that in the future. Maybe like a little mini series of like these other characters having to do some other stuff. The fight scenes were also cool. Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 were interesting as characters. And yeah, besides just the minor stuff, like Goku and Vegeta being a little out of character at first, Gohan and the whole beast form thing, and not technically deserving it as far as the movie's context is concerned, even though the movies are like, well, yeah, I know we said that, he's slacking, but actually he hasn't been slacking, kind of. Maybe that's sort of what we're supposed to take from him. Like, well, no, he actually hasn't been slacking. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to achieve beast form, period. But, yeah, other than that, pretty good movie. So, alrighty, I guess that'll really bring us to a close. About an hour. That's not too bad. The Arise video is going to be friggin' long, fair warning. But right now we can just focus on what you're listening to right now. So, thank you for listening. If you've listened this far up, this is Flamzeron, aka YouTube Tasuke, aka Ryan, signing out. See you later.